There are moments in history that serve as hinges, pivot points upon which the future turns. They are often born not of sudden crisis, but of a long, quiet and relentless pursuit. Tonight, under the watchful gaze of the cosmos, it is destined for such a moment is taking shape. This is not merely a rocket. It is a 300-foot-tall embodiment of a decades-long dream, a physical manifestation of a promise whispered in a high school valedictorian speech long ago. It is a titan of titanium and aluminum, filled with cryogenic propellants, chilled to hundreds of degrees below zero. And it is about to awaken. For years it has been a ghost, a computer rendering a series of impressive but terrestrial engine tests. It was the quiet counterpart to its more flamboyant rivals, the steady tortoise in a race seemingly dominated by hares. But patience has its own immense power. The final seconds of the countdown are now falling away, each tick of the clock a hammer blow forging a new reality. 10, 9, the sound suppression system unleashes a deluge, a man-made waterfall to absorb the coming fury. 8, 7, the launch pad, a complex altar of steel and concrete, prepares to release its offering. 6, 5, a deep guttural tremor begins to vibrate through the ground, a resonance felt not in the ears but in the chest, in the very bones of all who bear witness. 4, 3, 2, a flash of emerald green, the signature of igniting methane, erupts from the base. 1. 7 BE4 engines, the most powerful liquid oxygen and methane engines ever forged by human hands, roar into existence. They unleash a torrent of controlled violence, a sun-like brilliance that banishes the twilight and casts long dancing shadows across the Florida coastline. For a breathtaking instant, the colossal machine is held fast, its power building straining against the clamps that chain it to the earth. And then with a final decisive command, the restraints fall away. There is no sudden leap. The ascent is majestic, almost impossibly slow. New Glen rises with a deliberateness that belies the 15 million newtons of thrust screaming from its base. It clears the tower, a graceful behemoth climbing a staircase of its own incandescent exhaust. The sound arrives a moment later, not as a sharp crack, but as a rolling, continuous thunder that washes over the landscape, a physical pressure wave that rattles windows and shakes the soul. This is more than a launch. It is an announcement. A declaration that the long, quiet decades are over. The path back to the moon and beyond is now wider than ever before. The race is heating up. To truly understand the significance of this pillar of fire ascending into the night, we must cast our gaze back far beyond the pristine launch pads of the Space Coast. We must look to a time when the moon was not a destination, but a deity. A silver disk in the velvet blackness, it governed the tides, measured the months, and populated the dreams of nascent civilizations. It was a source of myth, a canvas for the imagination, a silent, pearlescent observer of the entirety of human history. For millennia, it was the ultimate symbol of the unattainable. The 20th century, with its furious pace of invention and its geopolitical strife, transformed that relationship. The heavens were no longer just a place for gods and poets. They became an arena for ideological competition. The cold vacuum of space was suddenly filled with the hot rhetoric of the Cold War. The launch of Sputnik in 1957 was a profound shock, a beeping orbital challenge that spurred a generation of American scientists, engineers, and politicians into a frantic, unprecedented effort. The race was on, and the ultimate prize was our nearest celestial neighbor, President John F. Kennedy, standing before a packed stadium in 1962, did not frame the lunar objective as easy or sensible. He framed it as a trial, a test of will. "We choose to go to the moon in this decade," he declared, "not because it is easy, but because it is hard." That single sentence galvanized a nation. It channeled immense resources, intellect, and courage into the Apollo program, a technological endeavor on a scale never before attempted. It demanded the invention of new mathematics, new materials, new methods of computing and navigation. It was a Herculean undertaking requiring the coordinated effort of 400,000 people, and it succeeded. The grainy black and white images of Neil Armstrong and Buzz Aldrin on the Sea of Tranquility are etched into our collective consciousness. It was a moment of profound unity, a brief, shining instance where humanity looked up and saw not what divided it, but what it could achieve together. For 12 men across 6 missions, the moon became a tangible place. They walked its surface, studied its ancient geology, and brought back pieces of it, precious samples of another world. It felt like the dawn of a new age, the first step on an infinite journey. But then it stopped. After Apollo 17 returned in 1972, the magnificent Saturn V rockets, the most powerful machines ever built by humanity, became museum pieces. The lunar dust settled, political priorities shifted, budgets were slashed, and the public's attention turned elsewhere. The prevailing sentiment was that we had been there, we had done that. The great cosmic ocean, which had seemed so close, receded once more. For half a century, humanity remained in the shallow waters of low Earth orbit, building space stations and launching satellites, but never again venturing into the deep. The dream of a permanent human presence beyond our own planet was deferred, a promise left unfulfilled, gathering dust like the silent lunar rovers on the plains of Taurus Littrow. The catalyst for the new era came not from a government edict, but from a different kind of ambition. It emerged from the world of digital code and global commerce, from entrepreneurs who had reshaped the Earth and now turned their gaze to the heavens. They saw space not as a stage for national prestige, but as a frontier of opportunity, a place to build a new future for humanity. 2 visions in particular began to take shape, born from the minds of 2 titans of the internet age. One was the vision of Elon Musk and SpaceX. It was a bold, aggressive, and audacious plan characterized by a relentless drive to colonize Mars. The philosophy was one of rapid iteration, of building, testing, flying, and sometimes failing spectacularly, but always pushing forward at a breakneck pace. The other vision was quieter, more methodical. It belonged to Jeff Bezos, the founder of Amazon, a man who had built a global empire on the principles of long-term thinking and relentless customer focus. His space company, Blue Origin, founded in the year 2000, operated for years in near-total secrecy. Its motto times gradatim ferociter times Latin for step-by-step ferociously perfectly encapsulated its approach. Imagine 2 master watchmakers. One works in the open building, a dazzlingly complex timepiece, constantly redesigning its parts, sometimes seeing the whole thing fly apart on the testing bench, only to reassemble it stronger than before. The other works behind a closed door, meticulously crafting and perfecting each individual gear, ensuring every component is flawless before ever attempting to assemble the final mechanism. Both are driven by a profound vision, but their methodologies could not be more different. This was the dynamic that began to define the 21st century space race, the fiery, rapid prototyping hare versus the deliberate, methodical tortoise. Bezos's fascination was not a recent whim. As a young man, in his high school valedictorian address, he spoke of a future where millions of people lived and worked in space, preserving the Earth as a magnificent natural park. For him, space exploration wasn't just about adventure, it was an existential necessity for the long-term survival and prosperity of our species. He envisioned a future where heavy industry and energy generation are moved off-planet, relieving the strain on Earth's fragile biosphere. But such a grand vision could not be realized overnight. It required a foundation, a series of deliberate, ferocious steps. The first of these steps was a small, reusable suborbital rocket named New Shepard. For years, it was Blue Origin's primary public face. To the casual observer, it might have seemed like a mere dalliance, a space tourism vehicle for the wealthy. But its true purpose was far more profound. New Shepard was the laboratory, the crucible where the core technologies for a much larger future were being forged and perfected. Each successful flight, each pinpoint vertical landing of its booster and capsule was a dress rehearsal. It was the painstaking practice of a fundamental skill, reusability. It allowed Blue Origin to master the complex dance of rocketry, guidance, and controlled descent to operate flight hardware again and again, gathering invaluable data with every launch. While New Shepard was gracefully hopping to the edge of space and back, the true heart of the grander vision was being forged in the company's engine factories. Developing a new, powerful, and reliable rocket engine is one of the most formidable challenges in all of engineering. It is a taming of fire, a balancing act on the knife edge of chemistry and physics. Blue Origin's chosen path was the BE-4, a massive engine designed to burn liquefied natural gas or methane and liquid oxygen. The choice of methane was strategic. It burns more cleanly than traditional kerosene, leaving behind less soot, which is critical for an engine that needs to be reused dozens of times without extensive, costly refurbishment. It is also potentially available on Mars and the Moon, a fuel for the future. The development of the BE-4 was a long and arduous journey, a multi-billion-dollar endeavor fraught with technical setbacks and delays. It was a perfect example of the ferocious part of the company's motto. While the public saw very little behind the scenes, an army of engineers grappled with the immense complexities of turbopumps, spinning at tens of thousands of RPM combustion instabilities, and the extreme temperatures and pressures inherent in unleashing such power. This engine became not only the heart of Blue Origin's own ambitions, but also a key component for the broader American space industry chosen to power the first stage of United Launch Alliance's new Vulcan rocket. The Tortoise was not just building its own shell, it was forging the engine for others as well. And all of this work, the meticulous practice with New Shepard, the grueling development of the BE-4, was in service of one singular machine, New Glenn. Named in honor of John Glenn, the first American to orbit the Earth, the rocket was designed from the ground up to be a revolutionary heavy-lift vehicle. Its scale is difficult to comprehend. Standing nearly 100 meters tall with a massive 7-meter diameter fairing, capable of swallowing entire satellites or lunar modules, it was conceived as the workhorse for building the future in space that Bezos had dreamed of since he was a boy. Its most defining feature, the culmination of all the lessons learned from New Shepard, is its reusable first stage. This colossal booster, powered by the 7 BE-4 engines, is designed to fly to the edge of space, release its second stage, and then perform a series of complex maneuvers to return not to the launch site but to a moving platform far out in the Atlantic Ocean. To accomplish this, it deploys large fins for aerodynamic control. As it slices back through the atmosphere, reignites its engines for a final braking burn, and deploys landing legs to touch down softly on the deck of a custom-built ship. It is an act of engineering bravado, a ballet of a skyscraper-sized object, landing on a moving target with pinpoint precision. This reusability is the key to radically lowering the cost of access to space, transforming it from a realm of bespoke, prohibitively expensive missions into a place of commerce, industry, and settlement. Let us return now to that Florida night, to the inaugural flight of this gentle giant. As New Glenn pierces the upper atmosphere, the world below becomes a tapestry of city lights against the dark curve of the Earth. Inside Blue Origin's Mission Control Center, the atmosphere is one of intense, focused calm. Hundreds of engineers who have poured years of their lives into this project are hunched over their consoles, their faces illuminated by the green and amber glow of telemetry data. Every number tells a story: engine pressures, trajectory angles, structural loads. Jeff Bezos is there not as a distant executive, but as a fellow participant in the drama, his expression a mixture of profound tension and awe. He is watching his life's work, his ferocious, step-by-step philosophy being validated in real time. The rocket continues its powerful, smooth ascent. A critical moment approaches max Q, the point of maximum aerodynamic pressure. This is the instant when the forces of speed and air density conspire to exert the most violent stress on the vehicle's structure. Imagine driving a car into a hurricane-force headwind that is constantly increasing in intensity. New Glenn, guided by its sophisticated flight computers, pushes through this invisible wall without incident, its design proven robust. The call comes from the flight controller, clear and steady. Vehicle is supersonic. Max Q has passed. All systems nominal. A wave of quiet relief ripples through the control room. Minutes later, another pivotal event. The 7 BE-4 engines throttle down and cut off in perfect sequence. The roar of ascent is replaced by an eerie silence. For a moment, the vehicle and its upper stage coast in a graceful ballistic arc. Then, with a series of precise small pyrotechnic charges, the first stage separates. From a camera on the second stage, we see the colossal booster fall away, a magnificent piece of engineering beginning its second equally important mission, the journey home. The second stage engine, a BE-3U vacuum-optimized Hydrolox engine, ignites, pushing its payload onward and upward toward orbital velocity. Its task is to complete the primary mission to deliver its cargo to the intended destination in the void. But our focus now shifts to the descending first stage. It is now a winged, unpowered projectile, arcing back toward the dense layers of the atmosphere at hypersonic speed. Small thrusters fire, orienting the booster perfectly for re-entry. Its large aerodynamic fins deployed near the top of the stage bite into the thickening air, acting like the feathers on an arrow to steer the massive cylinder toward its target. Hundreds of miles away, pitching gently on the Atlantic swells, is the landing ship. It is not merely a barge, it is a marvel of automation, using powerful thrusters to maintain its position with incredible accuracy, creating a stable island of steel in the vast moving ocean. On its deck, the crew monitors the telemetry from the descending booster. It appears first as a faint star, growing progressively brighter. Then the re-entry burn begins. 3 of the 7 BE-4 engines reignite a burst of fire in the sky to dramatically slow the stage's descent. The final seconds are a spectacle of fire and precision. As the booster nears the ship, the single center engine fires one last time, a landing burn that acts as a final cushion, cancelling out its remaining velocity. The landing legs deploy, and with a final gentle puff of gas, the 1/8-story tall structure touches down perfectly in the center of the landing circle. A plume of steam and condensation billows from the hot engine bells, then silence. In mission control, a professional calm shatters into a cacophony of cheers, applause, and tears of joy. The tortoise has not just finished the first leg of the race, it has done so with breathtaking elegance and perfection. This single successful launch and landing does not happen in a vacuum. It is a powerful new move on a chessboard that has become increasingly crowded and complex. The new moon race is not a simple duel between two superpowers. It is a multi-layered global endeavor with a host of players, each with their own technologies, ambitions, and philosophies. At the forefront of the American effort is NASA's Artemis program. Artemis is a fundamentally different concept from Apollo. Its objective is not just to plant flags and collect rocks, but to establish a sustainable, long-term human presence on and around the moon. It is a program of outposts, gateways, and reusable landers. The primary vehicle for carrying astronauts is NASA's own Super Heavy Lift rocket, the Space Launch System, or SLS, an immense launcher that traces its lineage back to the Space Shuttle. Paired with the Orion Deep Space Crew Capsule, SLS is designed for the singular critical task of sending humans farther than they have ever been before. But the Artemis architecture wisely embraces the new commercial reality. NASA no longer seeks to own and operate all the hardware. Instead, it acts as an anchor, customer funding and partnering with private companies to develop the other necessary components. And this is where New Glenn and its chief rival SpaceX's Starship enter the picture. They are not necessarily competitors to the government's SLS, but essential pillars of the entire enterprise. New Glenn's cavernous fairing and immense lift capacity make it an ideal vehicle for delivering large lunar landers, habitat modules for a future base, or critical components for the planned Lunar Gateway, an orbiting station that will serve as a staging post for missions to the surface. And then there is Starship. If New Glenn is the meticulously crafted grand piano, Starship is the entire rock and roll stadium. A fully and rapidly reusable two-stage system of unprecedented scale, it promises to carry over 100 tons and 100 people to orbit and beyond. Its development, true to SpaceX's philosophy, has been a public spectacle of explosive tests and rapid design changes in South Texas. Starship represents a radical, paradigm-shattering approach to spaceflight, aiming to make travel to the Moon and Mars as common as intercontinental air travel is today. The competition between the methodical New Glenn and the disruptive Starship is a powerful engine of innovation, a healthy rivalry that will ultimately push both companies to achieve greater things and provide the world with redundant, robust capabilities for exploring the solar system. This new lunar ambition is not an exclusively American affair. The China National Space Administration has been executing a brilliantly successful and methodical series of robotic lunar missions under the Chang'e program. They have landed on the far side of the Moon, returned samples, and are methodically laying the groundwork for a crewed landing and an international lunar research station, likely in partnership with Russia. India, with its Chandrayaan program, has also demonstrated its prowess, successfully inserting an orbiter around the Moon and continuing to push the boundaries of its space capabilities. Europe, Japan, and other spacefaring nations are also key partners and players, contributing robotic systems, communication relays, and scientific instruments. The Moon is once again a global destination, a focal point of human ambition from every corner of the globe. Why now? Why this sudden, intense renewal of focus on a world we visited half a century ago? The reasons are as varied as the players themselves. For scientists, the Moon remains a treasure chest of cosmic history. The permanently shadowed craters at its poles are believed to hold vast quantities of water ice, a frozen record of billions of years of solar system history. This ice is not just a scientific curiosity, it is a vital resource. It can be broken down into hydrogen and oxygen, breathable air for astronauts, and crucially the most powerful chemical rocket propellant known. The Moon could become a refueling station for the solar system, a place where missions to Mars and beyond can top up their tanks for the long journey ahead. The lunar surface also offers a unique platform for science. Free from the distorting effects of Earth's atmosphere, radio telescopes placed on the far side of the Moon would be shielded from our planet's cacophony of radio noise, allowing them to listen to the faint whispers from the dawn of the universe. Geologists are eager to return to study the moon's complex history, to understand the formation of planets, and to assess its potential for resources like helium-3, a rare isotope that could one day fuel clean fusion reactors on Earth. Ultimately, the most profound reason for returning to the moon is to learn how to live and work sustainably on another world. It is our celestial backyard, a mere 3-day journey away. It is a proving ground, a place to test the technologies, strategies, and psychological fortitude required for the much more arduous multi-year missions to Mars. Before we can truly become a multi-planetary species, we must first learn to be a multi-world one. The moon is the essential next step in that grand evolutionary journey. With the successful inaugural flight of New Glenn, a new fleet of heavy-lift vehicles is coming online. The pathway to realizing these ambitions is now clear. The coming years will see a rapid acceleration of activity. We can expect to see New Glenn launching constellations of satellites to power a global internet, deploying large space telescopes to peer into the universe's past, and most importantly, carrying the building blocks of the Artemis program to lunar orbit. Its first operational missions will likely involve launching probes to map the lunar ice deposits in greater detail, followed by large robotic landers to test resource extraction techniques. Then will come the components of habitats, power systems, and rovers, assembling the infrastructure on the surface in advance of human arrival. This will give rise to something humanity has never seen before: a true lunar economy, a bustling network of transportation infrastructure and commerce in cislunar space. Orbital tugs will move payloads between Earth orbit and the Lunar Gateway. Robotic mining operations on the surface will begin to process regolith and extract water. Scientific outposts will grow into permanent research stations. This is the future that was once the sole domain of science fiction, and it is now being built launch by launch by these new titans of steel and fire. The silhouette of the New Glenn booster standing proudly on its seaborne platform against the first light of dawn is therefore more than just a triumph of engineering. It is a symbol of persistence. It is a monument to a long-term vision pursued patiently and ferociously over decades. It connects the dreams of the ancient astronomers who charted the moon's phases with the aspirations of the future colonists who will call it home. The roar of its engines was an echo of Kennedy's challenge, a renewed commitment to the hard things, to the grand adventures that define us. The long pause is over. The great journey is resuming. The road to the stars is open for business.